Hi, everyone. Celia Waterhouse here. Thanks for joining us at OnPoint Mentors. Today, we have a really on-point topic to talk about with one of our mentors, DJ Austin. Welcome, DJ.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No, this is a great topic, so I'm excited to talk about it today. So DJ today is going to be talking about Energize your life in uncertain times. Yes. New Year's health and fitness you can stick to. Now, DJ is a holistic health and life coach. He also is an expertise in specifically in weight loss, personal growth and development, mental and physical health, and wellness. So this is a great topic to talk about in January, especially, although any time of year, really.
Oh, yeah, but this is prime time.
This is prime time. I imagine you are just so busy, inundated with clients because it's New Year's and everybody's New Year's resolution is exercise more, eat more healthy, lose weight. So share some wisdom on how our clients can set those goals and stick with them.
Yes. So the issue too is that a lot of people I find are having the old ways of the way they thought that, losing weight, exercise, even certain, dieting tactics, they've had to change. So people think, oh, if I need to lose weight, I need to be in a gym. And then there's the backwards effect of, oh, well, they don't feel fit enough to be in a gym because they feel like they're going to be in a place where they're going to be judged for how they look. And, and it's hard. Going into a gym for the first time is very vulnerable, but obviously because of COVID-19 and depending where anybody is that's watching this, if your gym is open or not, where I am in Ontario, Canada, we are in a second lockdown. So all gyms are closed. So for a lot of my clients locally, we've had to really just shift the mindset of what that new health and fitness regime is going to look like. Right. And a lot of the times, and we've touched upon it before in another OnPoint Mentor video, was that, movement is key. And a lot of people think that it has to be some sort of level of intensity to get that result. But you have to realize that everything marketed to you in the health and fitness world a lot of the times is that extreme, is intensity, is a kind of black and white lifestyle. When in actuality, for some that is maintainable, for most that's not. You end up reaching a burnout point, and when it's social media, it's a highlight reel. You don't really see the downtime that's going on behind the scenes. You don't see when they're maybe off their diet or they're having something that isn't, quote unquote healthy. So there's a lot of things where it's more backtracking and realizing, okay, yes, your goal may be to lose weight and to get more active. Well, that's going to start with, 2 or 3 times a week of just doing a 15-minute walk around the block. Or,
that's simple.
It really is, because a lot of times when we introduce too much change, right, our, reptilian brain will freak out. Right. Too much change means, okay, well, we're not safe because our routine's not the same. We have a little bit more of a pull to either revert right back, right, or just totally throw our hands up in the air and quit. So I always tell people to start small, because those small wins, they all compound on each other. Right. So you do those walks 2 to 3 times a week. And then you're like, okay, you know what? I did that. And that was great. And that was super manageable. Well, what do we do the next week? We implement 5 more minutes and 5 more minutes and 5 more minutes, because there's a lot of times where I have some clients that come in that have no exercise background. So we have to really start small. And that's where it is. It's moving over to more real whole foods. So, things that have 1 or 2 ingredients, because a lot of times, even now, where a lot of people are ordering out prepackaged. Oh, I'm at home. Well, I'm always at home. I don't really want to cook. I don't really feel like I have the energy. So it's easy to fall back on those traps and our old eating styles. Right. But just introducing the real whole foods is where I start. And then it'll get more and more intensive. It's a slow roll. A rocket scientist doesn't know exactly how everything works right when they start. So you have to start at the beginning. And that's where I tell a lot of my clients, well, this is where we're going to start. Some of them get frustrated because it's not as fast as they want it to be, but I always promise them that they'll get there.
So what's an average time? If someone says, oh, I want to lose weight.
Yep.
How long does it take to initiate those habits? of healthy eating and exercising and stuff like that.
Yeah. So usually when it comes to general weight loss, when I'm working with new clients, usually it's about, I would say the first week to 3 weeks is just environmental and also a few habit changes. I'm not really expecting any weight loss, but all I want is for my client to start feeling better. Because the second we add in a little bit more movement, take out those high inflammatory foods, they start feeling better. And then they go, oh, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm doing this. I'm seeing the results. And then we can start implementing a few more changes and things like that. And that's where the weight really starts to come off.
Right.
And usually when we first start implementing diet changes or exercise changes, the weight that comes off is actually fairly, it's fairly fast, because we're implementing changes that have never been implemented before. So the body's highly, highly adaptive.
Wow. Yeah. Can you explain inflammatory foods? What does that mean?
So high inflammatory foods are, let's say groups of we could have a lot of nightshades, which are, pepper, capsaicin, tomatoes, things like that are pro-inflammatory foods, just naturally in the body, the way the body processes those foods. And then also, high sugar, creating high insulin spikes. A lot of people, are leaning a little bit more on alcohol these days. So as much as, wine has antioxidants, a lot of alcohol creates that inflammatory response, right. Affects our sleep. If our sleep's not there, our body's already inflamed. So there's a lot of things that kind of attack us from all angles. But that's why, as a holistic health and life coach, I always love looking at the bigger picture, because it's all those things to, come into play to help lower that inflammation and just help your body feel better.
Right.
You could, a lot of people don't even realize it, but let's say you indulge, over the holidays, a little bit more wine, a little bit more sweets. And the next day you may notice that you feel a little bit foggy. Your joints may feel tight, plugged ears, your sinuses, is all signs of inflammation. So our body's usually telling us, but a lot of us have become so disconnected to our bodies. So, we have an ache or a pain, we automatically go for, Advil, Tylenol, some sort of over-the-counter, remedy, when, we don't really think about, well, why am I needing to take that? What's causing that?
Right.
Sometimes stuff just comes out of the blue, but a lot of times it is some sort of lifestyle or dietary change that is bringing about that pain or inflammation.
Right. So I have a question, because you work with a lot of people that have health goals and things like that. But what do you think, in your opinion, what's the underlying reason why people want to lose weight, exercise more, and eat healthier? Obviously it sounds like, oh yeah, I got to do this because that's what I should do. But there's always that foundational issue. So explain.
There's always more underlying. So usually when someone comes to me for that, it's either, weight loss, they want to feel more energized, better sleep, better overall health. A lot of that can be rooted in superficial, just, I want to look better. I want to fit in my clothes better. I want to feel better in my skin. Right. But if we deduce down the why underneath the why, usually it's like, okay, well, I feel like I need to start taking better care of myself. I'm watching people around me get sick. Obviously with COVID, it's making us have to really look at our health. And because we're seeing a lot of people get hit harder with COVID when they're already having some sort of, metabolic issue, be it obesity, diabetes, things like that, even heart disease. But I digress. Getting back to that, it's usually the deeper why of they want to take some sort of control. It's control. It's feeling better about yourself. It can be, okay, I want to lose weight, but the weight loss truly means so much more. So a lot of times with my clients, I get them to really ask themselves those deeper questions. Well, why do you want to lose weight? And a lot of times it's female clients that want to reach out. I find men a little bit more hesitant to reach out for help. I think it's a little bit to do with ego, but a lot of times when it comes to, a female, they're like, okay, well, I want to feel empowered in my body. Same thing for men. They want to feel strong. They want to feel physically fit. They want to feel like that alpha. So a lot of it comes from that, the world right now is chaos. What can they control in their everyday? So a lot of the times that is diet and exercise. We can control the actions with our body and also the food we put in our mouths. But I always find that it's this deeper level of self-care. And it's also to a point where some people are just sick with the way that they're living and the way that they're feeling. And it is hard sometimes to have that bit of a sell to tell somebody that in 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to feel a whole lot better, when we're in a generation and a society that now we have a lot of stuff that's, right at our doorstep instantly. We expect almost instant gratification. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of it just deduces down to the fact of wanting to feel better in sense of self.
Right.
But it can always kind of, the simplest way is like, okay, well, I want to look better.
Right.
Easiest way, but there's always that deeper understanding. And I tell all my clients to really understand why they really want to change with whatever their goal is, and then stick to that, because your motivation is going to be finite, but you have to remember the deeper reason. And a lot of times too, it's they want to be around for their kids. They're seeing family and friends have health issues, and age comes for us all. Aging's inevitable, but taking care of ourselves makes that ride as smooth as possible.
Right. Now, I loved our last conversation. You said it could be as simple as getting up from the couch and walking around the room a few times. And I love that, because that's simple. And you can do that. That's an easy thing.
Oh, 100%. And a lot of clients that I have that are in the corporate world that do a lot of Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
I get them to do certain, walk around exercises, walking around lunges, like in between meetings. And I even get them to sometimes have a little bit of a yell, a full body shake, if you will, because they're all state changers. The second we get our body moving, it instantly changes our brain chemistry. So even too, with a lot of times that I'm realizing is that a lot of my clients are finding that they're lacking energy. They're feeling a little bit more lethargic than normal, and they're not sure, they're not understanding really why. Because a lot of times what happens is that, before COVID, or even certain times during COVID, when we're a go lifestyle, our body is highly adaptive. So it will adapt to that go. And then the second we start working from home more again, or there's another lockdown, we end up having to slow our roll again. And what ends up happening is that your body then becomes adapted to moving less. So you actually feel tired doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because your body's readapting to that energy output and what's going on. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times my clients think something's going wrong, or they're what's going on? Why am I feeling lethargic? I'm like, well, it's your body and your nervous system actually doing its job.
Right.
It's just that we're designed and wired to be out there. We're still kind of cavemen and cavewomen, and we're still primal. We're designed to move. We're not designed to sit for long periods of time. So, a lot of people are now having more lower back issues, postural issues. They may realize, oh, I'm the same weight, but I'm feeling a little softer. Body composition's changing and things like that.
Right. Now, I find it interesting. I watched this documentary the other day where this couple goes into the Alaskan wild, fly on a plane, get dropped into, the middle of nowhere, no radio contact, no nothing. And they're building a log cabin. And they started in spring.
Yep.
And they had until, they had to get this cabin built before the winter because of the snow and the elements. I mean, it gets down, minus 60 or something. Yeah. And so they had to get this built, but some of their everyday activities, obviously, if you're going to build a log cabin, that's a lot of physical activity. But even just maintaining a day-to-day routine of collecting water, chopping wood, that's all movement. And we as humans back in the olden days, that's what we did from day to day. Whereas nowadays, we're just, this is our movement right here, right? With the computer.
We do not have to hunt and forage for our food.
Right.
And even too, a lot of times I laugh about, the big topic of intermittent fasting.
Right.
That's what we did as a hunter-gatherer society. There were times where food was plentiful, and there were, food that we had, and there were times that we went without. And that's why when we fast, we turn on, autophagy. So, our bodies go after damaged cells and things like that. That's a mechanism that we had forever because we didn't have food. And that's, a certain thing that we have, and our body likes certain stressors. So be it lack of food, fasting, health benefits, lack of food, the body has to turn on certain processes. Physical exercise, right? You're chopping wood, building a cabin, you're putting your body under that stress. And that's why a lot of times too, they'll be done at the end of the day. They'll have maybe their meal and go to bed and sleep like a baby. Yeah. Well, because you just exhausted so much energy, and then you're at home, you're having a bunch of coffees, you're watching news that's stressing you out, you're sitting, your body's like ready to go. You've got one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas, and then you try to go to bed.
Right.
And a lot of us are struggling with sleep nowadays too. We're waking up to the news and something crazy's happening every day. Uncertainty in the workplace, uncertainty in life. It's right. We're all in a state of fight or flight.
Right. No kidding. Okay, so I have a changing your diet question for you, because that's I think my question, it will probably be on everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people's minds, especially nowadays. So we're in a society where people's cholesterol just keeps going up and up and up, and people look to the health industry. The medical industry always says, take a statin, take some statin and lower your cholesterol, right? Or eat a Mediterranean diet, or go vegan or vegetarian.
And if you look at those are all low inflammatory. Mediterranean, very low inflammatory.
Okay.
I've been there myself. When I was I'm 30 now. When I was 17, I had doctors wanting to put me on Lipitor, which was a statin, because I have a family history of familiar hypercholesterolemia, so more free-floating cholesterol in the bloodstream than normal. My body's a harder time getting rid of bad cholesterol. But for me, I told them I did not want to be on statins just because of the side effects, and also for my young age.
Right.
And I went about just, let me change my diet and go about that. But it is hard because you have so many conflicting, bodies of information when it comes to, higher cholesterol and things like that. And a lot of times I work from it as a place of first, let's look at all the things that are causing you to be inflamed. Because with chronic overinflammation, our artery walls can become like sandpaper. So even though our diets can be very low in cholesterol and high in fiber, we can still have particulates that stick to the artery wall.
Right.
So I always start from an inflammatory side. So I look at just general stress, alcohol consumption, smoking, sleep first and foremost. Right. And then, usually from that lifestyle standpoint, and then we go into diet. Because those lifestyle stressors will cause inflammation regardless of diet.
So when we talk about trying to make a habit out of eating healthy, so I'm trying to eat healthier. It's not New Year's resolution. It's just something that we're trying to do. And I want to keep my cholesterol at bay. And so I'm looking at Mediterranean diets and vegan diets, but I don't really know what a vegan diet is, even though I'm trying to be conscious of it. And then I'm really sad because I can't have my pork or my ground beef or. So
a lot of the times when I sometimes I get my back up about this topic. A lot of the times it's, there was a time where people were like, oh, eggs are bad.
Right.
Oh, the yolks are bad.
Right.
Okay, you're looking at a singular food saying it's bad. No one food is bad. It's usually the combination. So let's say your average person's breakfast. Okay. So they wake up in the morning, they're having their whole eggs. Nothing wrong with that, but they're maybe pairing it with bacon, sausage, toast, butter. And then what are they usually having? They're either having a coffee with a lot of cream and sugar, or they're going with a big glass of juice. So you're eating, and even to certain, trans fats and certain other fats, they are inflammatory, inflammatory, kind of chemical structures in of themselves, the way that our body has to break them down.
Right.
So there's a lot of times where it's okay, red meat isn't bad. It's just depending on the cut. Are you getting your red meat from, lean bison, or that's grass fed and grass finished, or are you getting your red meat from a burger patty from McDonald's? Because a lot of times those meat categories get grouped together. Okay. So it's the product of a whole. So even too, like lean ground beef, 90% protein, 10% fat. That's really not bad. And it's also the portion control and how often you're eating it within a week. Okay. So you really have to really deduce it down and be like, okay, how often am I eating this food? What am I pairing this food with? And what is the actual like quality coming in? Because there's a lot of times where people are like, oh, fat's bad. Well, fat's not bad. You need fat for certain hormone production, your skin, your hair, your nails, and even just like a sense of well-being, and also for the fact of you wanting to lose weight. If you're not having a lot of fat coming in, your body's not going to want to let any go. Right. So a lot of those times when people go, oh, I've got to do a certain diet style. Mediterranean's great, but there's certain cuts of red meat that have way more B12s than we're getting, and especially when it comes to plant-based diets, a lot of vegans I find lack B12, and then they have thyroid issues and their metabolism ends up slowing. And because when you cut out whole food groups, you end up subbing in something more. So a lot of vegans end up having a higher carbohydrate diet, creating a lot more inflammation. Your skin could get bad, brittle hair, brittle nails, and even mood disorders that actually can come from certain vegan diets from just lack of certain amino acids for brain chemistry. Right. So there's a lot of times where I feel like people want to jump on a certain bandwagon because it's easy, right? Like, oh, well, I'm keto. If I'm paleo. We're omnivores. We're meant to eat what's available to us. Right. So I actually get certain people because a lot of our brains love novelty, our bodies love consistency. So a lot of times I'll have clients that shift from having certain weeks where they're more vegan and certain weeks where they'd be more paleo, maybe a little bit more carnivore, but just having that kind of switch because it keeps your body guessing. Your body doesn't get too caught in a routine. Right. It's enough, variety to keep you kind of going and keep you being like, oh, well, I can get to try this and this is delicious and this is different. And then also because you're getting a certain, spectrum of nutrients. Right. Because if you stick to just one thing, you're missing out on tons of food groups that are going to be super beneficial. But again, right, a lot of it is just look at even just the portion size. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, don't have that. Well, yeah, don't have like 6 eggs and like a half a pack of bacon. Have 2 eggs and some turkey bacon, or 2 eggs and a bowl of oatmeal. Right. So with some flax, maybe a little bit of coconut sugar if you need something a little bit more lower glycemic. But there's just small changes. But I think a lot of people want to get so caught up in that black or white thinking again. Right. No, I think you're right. And I love you gave me permission to eat some meat. Oh, yes. I was very sad for a while. Yeah. Well, no, because there were times when we were that Paleolithic like lifestyle where sometimes we would hunt and we would get an animal and we'd have protein. And there were other times where we didn't. And that's why you can actually see in certain studies when it comes to fasting that if you fast upwards of 4 to 5 days, you can actually still weight train and you can still semi-recover. It's not as ideal as you would like, but the body has protein sparing, abilities when it comes to fasting. Have you heard, do people fast for 4 or 5 days? Is that like a thing? I've had some clients where I will, like, let's say they're doing a dietary change. Okay. So let's say they go to a naturopath and they end up getting a food allergy test. Okay. And we end up realizing, okay, they have an extreme dairy intolerance. Okay. And most people do on some level. It just depends on the amount of dairy you're consuming and other factors as well. But when there are certain diet changes, and let's say that client is going to be doing an elimination diet where we literally kind of deduce down to very, very simple raw things. So, a simple, like a few food choices, things like that. But what we do is the best way for fasting is one of the best ways to heal your gut. So when we have a lot of, kind of gastrointestinal distress, leaky gut, things like that, I usually get a client to do a bit of anywhere from a 2-day to a 4-day fast. But during that fast, they're consuming bone broth. So they're getting certain salts and electrolytes coming in, and they're also getting collagen from it's usually the bone broth is made from marrow bones.
Right.
But they're getting a lot of collagen and a lot of amino acids. So that collagen and those amino acids are helping heal the gut lining, because when we eat a lot of gluten, dairy, they can create gut permeations.
Right.
End up letting, certain things into our body that we don't want there, that our body was originally maybe filtering out.
Right.
But that's the only time that I usually implement like a hard protocol of fasting for 2 to 4 days, is usually just from a dietary healing standpoint.
Right.
And just a bit of a reset to give your body a break. A lot of people, we don't realize it, but we are constantly eating. So like, there's a lot of times, a lot of people are grazers. They'll snack here, snack there. They'll eat right up to bedtime. And then maybe they go to bed around 10, 11 o'clock, and they're up at 5 o'clock and they're having their first meal again by 6. Your body literally has less than 12 hours where it doesn't have any food.
Right.
So there's a lot of times where it's just overuse. So sometimes
Right.
we just got to give it a break. And nothing bad will happen if you feel hungry. I promise. You have some people that may go hypoglycemic and they may feel a little faint, but that's also your body's a little bit like Pavlov. You've rung the bell at 12 o'clock. Your body's expecting the meal at 12 o'clock.
Right.
And then you don't have it, and you're like, oh, I don't feel so good. I might, and it's just, there's certain points where then people freak out and be like, oh, I don't feel good.
Right.
I've got to eat something.
Right.
And sometimes yes, and other times no, you can actually push past that and realize that you're actually just untraining your body to expect that meal at that time.
Do you have any advice for, people who are constantly on Zoom meetings and just sitting all day? Healthy snacks, healthy grazing, because I am notorious for reaching for that packet of potato chips. Yeah. I need that savory, salty thing, but give me some alternatives that will make me happy and comforted.
Oh yeah. So a lot of the times I get my clients to describe just what you described now. Right. So you're like potato chips, salty, crunchy, a lot of the times it's textural. It's mouthfeel. It's something to keep us busy while we're engaged with something else. Right. So a lot of times it's a, between a Zoom meeting, it could be also while you're watching TV. A lot of times we've come accustomed to sitting down, turning on the TV and eating something. Again, it's kind of Pavlov again. TV goes on. Oh, well, I got to eat something. But when it comes to Zoom meetings, I always ask my clients to, write down their favorite foods and then the textures. So like the textures and also taste. So something sweet or salty, savory or sweet. And then is it crunchy? Is it soft? And then we try to sub in a healthier alternative. And then also it comes down to portion control. One of my favorite things for chips is actually root chips, which are usually sweet potato. They can be parsnip, beet chips. I really like because they're salty and kind of sweet. Yeah. And then your average go-tos, a little bit of celery and peanut butter for crunch and kind of that savory side, carrot sticks, the raw bell peppers. And even too, when it comes to certain things, I have some clients that have a hard time actually getting enough calories in. So I usually tell them, trail mix, which is super simple. You're getting a lot of good fats, a little bit of protein. And those fats will help keep you satiated because you're not creating a really steep insulin spike. So if they go for something that's really sweet, a muffin, a donut, something that's going to spike your insulin pretty hard, you're going to feel hungry sooner, and you're also going to feel more of that crash. And a lot of times we get into that. So a lot of my clients, I actually tell to keep most of their fats and protein for earlier and kind of midway through the day. And then to actually save most of their carbohydrates for night. So yeah, a lot of times you hear people go, oh, carbs are bad at night. I use higher carbs at night for a lot of my clients to actually sleep better. Because that high insulin spike, we end up having that bit of that crash. And I want them to have a bit of that crash as they're going to bed.
Okay, so how many hours before one goes to bed should they have their last bite?
I would say about 2 hours is on average.
Okay.
Depending on just digestive speed. But yeah, so when it comes to the snacks to have, again, things that satiate you, the things that you already like, just finding the healthy variant. So go after the taste and texture and see what you can find that's going to fit that. And actually, one of my favorites too, and a lot of people, kind of get worried and go, oh, high sodium is bad, blood pressure, things like that. Yes, anything pre-existing, sure, maybe I would say not going for this, but one of my favorites is beef jerky. It's
beef jerky.
Jerky.
Okay.
You can even find it online, turkey jerky, other leaner cuts of meat, low sodium jerky as well that's out there.
Yeah.
But those are one of my favorites. It's a little bit harder to chew. You're not going to swallow it as fast. It's more satiating because you're getting a little bit more mouthfeel. And then the protein is going to really keep you satiated, and it also helps getting that added protein in your diet if you're having a harder time finding, trying to get it in.
Yeah. So, that's great advice.
So beef jerky, trail mix. Obviously, everybody, portion control is key, because you can reach in there and grab a whole handful of trail mix, and a serving size could be maybe 40 grams of trail mix, and that could be 180 calories. Well, the handful you just grabbed could be upwards of 500. Oh, wow. Fat is calorically dense. So, for 1 gram of carbohydrate, we have 4 calories. For every gram of fat, like 1 gram of fat is 9 calories.
Okay.
So it is a pretty big difference. And then even let's say when it comes to veggies and fruit for snacks, cut them up into smaller bits, smaller pieces. So you actually feel like you're getting more than just like munching down a whole apple and then it's gone. Cut it up into very thin slices and you'll feel like you're having more than you actually are. So like one of my favorite things too is like pomegranates. Those take forever to eat. Or even pistachios, you got to break the shell. There's something slowing you down because a lot of the times, because of Zoom meetings, we're eating too fast. Yeah. We're eating a lot faster than our stomach and our brain can kind of catch up to each other. So a lot of my clients, one of the things I get them to do as well is have the 20 or 30 minute meal. So whatever they're eating, they have to put a timer on their phone, and literally eat whatever the size of the meal, they have to take 20 minutes. It's grueling at first, but your digestion will be a lot better. If you have acid reflux, that'll actually go down. And you'll find that a lot of the times that you could be eating the same thing and your body's actually metabolizing it a lot better.
Great idea.
There's a lot of benefits to, a little bit more chewing and a little bit slower eating. So find the things that kind of slow you down if you find that I'm having to ram a bunch of food. And especially with a lot of people that have children at home with online learning and things like that, they're having to maybe even stand over a sink and eat. Right. And you're eating in a panic state. Your body's like, well, we don't want to digest. We're in some sort of fight or flight. You're gonna feel like garbage. So there's just a lot of things where I think it's getting back to the roots of it and just slowing down. Right. Realizing that we can have that time. We just have to make a priority for it.
Right. Right. No, that is just really great advice. I want to circle back around to the exercise thing because I know we talked about 15-minute walk, but what other strategies and tips do you have for maintaining an exercise routine? How to make it fun, or especially because we are in lockdown. Some of us are in lockdown. How do we get that as part of our life and make it a habit?
So the biggest one, if you have a workout routine already going, I'm finding a lot of people working out at home are limited to equipment. Right. So a lot of time it is, okay, maybe they only have 5-pound dumbbells or even like cans of soup. I have some clients actually using, let's say they're doing a leg day. I'll get them to actually grab a backpack and I'll get them to put either like pots and pans in it, books, something to add weight so that when they're doing their body weight exercises, they can have a little bit more resistance. But when it comes to working out at home, try to have a designated space. Because a lot of times when we go into a gym, again, it is a state changer. We're walking into a different building. We know what our goal is in this building. It's the same thing as going into work. You're at your desk, you're in your office, you're getting work done. When you go home, you'll find it's a little bit harder because where I rest, where I relax, where I sleep, where I eat, is all in my environment. So you're having to shift a lot of things internally and not necessarily externally. So when it comes to at-home workout routine, create your own workout space. Create a space that, you know, when you walk in, you know, this is what I'm doing. This is what it's here. I'm not necessarily having my laptop beside me while I'm answering emails between sets. Be clear cut. Put your phone in another room, unless you're using your phone to listen to music and things like that. But put all those distractions away. And then when it comes to, you know, integrating that into family life and home life, if you've got a family calendar, put it up on the calendar that this is my workout time. Nobody bothers me for an hour and a half.
Right.
Use that time solely for yourself. And there's nothing selfish about that, because what you're doing is that you're doing that for yourself, and that's going to help you feel better. And then when you feel better, you're going to be able to interact with your spouse better, your kids better, your job better. It all spiders out. But where it first has to happen is here. You are first and foremost. So do not feel bad for putting yourself first.
Right.
But yeah, like creating a designated space, making it an absolute priority, and making the other things in your life have to work around it. A lot of times it's hard for us to stand up and to our family or to work or to friends and to be like, no, this is my time. I need to prioritize it. Yeah. And nobody's going to leave you. Nobody's going to shame you for it. You have to learn how to put that first. If that's your goal, then put it right up on that pedestal. Make it first and foremost, because when you do that, you're also then putting your best foot forward.
Right.
So yeah. And then when it comes to, you know, exercises and things like that, you know, there's a lot of online resources. Even now for me, I've recently started offering online training as well.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, there's a lot of good YouTube videos out there if you're looking for something that's a little bit more anaerobic or weight training. And then even too, I have a lot of clients where they feel like, okay, well, they're at home and the weight's not heavy enough, or it's becoming too easy. You know, we can add in extra sets, we can add in extra reps, or my favorite one is time under tension, slowing the movement down. So we could curl a dumbbell, you know, we could bang out 15 reps. Maybe that 15 reps takes us 10 to 20 or 10 to 12 seconds. Now, if I get you to do the same amount of reps in 30 seconds, you're like, oh my God, this 5 pounds just turned into 100 pounds. Because you also understands, you know, a few things: mechanical load, so how heavy the weight that we're lifting, and then time under tension. How long is that muscle engaged for? Yeah. So a lot of times, let's say with a squat, I'll get a client of mine to, you know, lower down on the eccentric part, so the negative part of the motion. I'll get them to go down for 3 seconds, pause at the bottom for a second, and then drive back up for 3 seconds. They're having to engage everything. So there's a lot more engagement. Yes, they may be doing less reps, but the actual time that the muscles engage is a lot longer than it's been before.
Right.
So there's just certain little things that you have to add in to, you know, make exercises feel harder when maybe the weight isn't there, because your body's going to become adaptive. There's going to come a point where you're like, oh, these 15, 20 reps are like nothing. Well, that means it's time to, you know, throw another log in the fire and kind of up that intensity.
Right. Right. So how are you finding being a personal trainer through COVID and doing it through a video conferencing platform? Yeah. I mean, tell me about that experience from your side as well as from the client side. I'm curious.
Yeah. So before I became a holistic health and life coach, I was a personal trainer. I was working in a gym. You know, lo and behold, I was health and life coaching even before I knew it. But finding that from working with physical clients to now being online, there is a part of me that I kind of don't like the way it feels, because for me, I'm a very hands-on kind of guy. I like getting really personal. I like really understanding. I like getting messy, if you will. And for me, I find it very hard to, you know, be with a client and make sure that they're necessarily keeping up that level of intensity. Right. You know, if their form is there. So a lot of times I get clients to even video an exercise and I get them to send it to me so I can critique and be like, okay, well, we need to adjust here and here and here. Right. A lot of it is learning. And then we're also having to adapt to what equipment they have access to. If they do, or if they don't. You know, obviously here we are in Ontario, Canada. It is winter. It is harder to get outside, but we've actually been blessed with a few weeks of mildish weather. But even then I get my clients, I'm like, look, bundle up, go outside, 15-minute walk around the block. Usually snow plows are there. The roads have been semi-salted. So it's not like you're having to walk in deep snow, but just a simple walk around the block and then coming home. Or, you know, if some of my clients are lucky enough to either have like a Peloton or a treadmill, some sort of stationary cardio piece of equipment.
Right. Oh my gosh. I love this discussion. I learned so much today.
Oh yeah. And you know, it's hard for me because I have a very hard time being singular. I have health and fitness ADD, where I look at everything all at once.
Right.
So for me, there's a lot of times where I'll think about one thing, but it always spiders out. But if we usually just focus on those core foundations, so of movement, treating our bodies better, whole food, looking at our lifestyle choices, prioritizing sleep. If we usually do those things, then we can slowly add on, and you'll see the spider out in that other way.
Right.
So yeah, just really making sure that we make a lot of this time our priority when we're in a home where all the boundaries can be blurred.
Right.
So resetting those boundaries, I say would be the biggest one for, home exercise and, home fitness.
Right.
Right on.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is fabulous. I always enjoy our conversations.
Oh yeah, I know. And there's times too where I know I go off on tangents a lot. But I've got so much going on up here that I know you and we could talk for hours.
We certainly can. Now, can people find on your profile information about your online programs and things like that, or?
So if you head to higherhealthwithdj.com, you'll see my online training. I have my life coaching. I also have my health coaching. And then there'll also be links to my social media where I do some really in-depth posts about, what we talked about today, time under tension. You can also download my free ebook, which I have on my website, which is top 10 foods to add to your diet for lowering inflammation. And then also the top foods to avoid as well.
Can we put that on your profile page? Because I want people to see it. When they search for you, I want them to be able to see some of the things you offer on the OnPoint profile page.
Oh, of course. I can get those up. No problem.
Great. Thank you so much, DJ. Wonderful to see you. Okay. Take care. Bye.
All the best.